Hello, and welcome to this brand new workshop, Setting Goals for 2026 whilst considering and celebrating the season that you are in. I am recording this in December 2025 and the run up to Christmas with two very excited children and a full work schedule is real. If you are the same and you're catching it whilst you're in that phase, it's there for you whenever you need it. So, whether or not you're starting on the 1st of January, you can do your prep in advance. But if you need to start on the 17th of January after everybody's gone back to school, or it's just a more suitable time for you, absolutely go for it. My work is never formulaic. This is about me sharing some tools with you that you can take and play with, use the tools that work, ditch the ones that don't, really make it your own. So, if we are meeting for the first time, I'm Nikki and I've been building a personal brand for the last 25 years. And for the last 15 years, I've been helping people all around the world to do the same, but very much on their terms. I started building a personal brand completely accidentally. We were not talking about personal branding at that time. I discovered at 18 when I moved to London from up north and I went to drama school that already I was beginning my career because we were being observed and connected and we were meeting people from the industry. And I really cottoned on to the fact that I was the common denominator of my own career. I know it's obvious, but sometimes I think we forget. I think we forget how much power and agency we have over driving the next chapter of our business. And this is something I am so passionate about. I really do not believe there is a one size fits all situation. And certainly over the last 25 years, my personal brand has changed shape and changed rhythm. And sometimes it's been great, and sometimes it's been less great, and sometimes life has been bigger than my business. But that's all okay. I am here for the long haul. And I think that this myth that we're always going to be building and building and building and growing and doing impressive external things. I just don't think it's the case. Certainly, if you've got kids as well. And over the last 25 years, I've been building what I call an income pie. So I make money from acting, coaching, writing, speaking, collaborating, doing all kinds of interesting work, I would say. I really love what I do. I feel really grateful to do stuff that I love. And I've also been really intentional. And that has definitely been a challenge at times because I am that firstborn child, the first child of both sets of grandparents. You know, I have that people pleasing quality. And so to really keep moving back and looking in and asking myself, what do I really want? Where am I being led by the shoulds? And where do I need to really go inside and look at what I need and want right now? I'm sharing that my kids are 6 and 10 because I am definitely in a different chapter, say to 2015 and 2019 when my kids were born. And I think that's really important to say, especially if you are hearing a workshop that's delivered by a mum. I went to so many of those workshops where people were talking about how they built this seven-figure business whilst they're kidnapped, and I just couldn't relate to it. My kids didn't sleep for the first 7 years. So, 2015 to 2022, I really felt like I saw a lot of hours. And in that chunk of time, I was really working with what I have. So, when you are doing these exercises, there is no expectation, there's no agenda from me. You don't have to do anything to impress anybody else. I really want you to honor this season that you are in. And I want to remind you that you can build this pick and mix of life and business. It is totally what you want to make it. And so always, I'm interested in helping you and all of my clients over the last 15 years to build a personal brand on their terms that suits their circumstances, their personality, and their goals. And really tune in where they are right now and where they're going. I know it's easy to think back to maybe what you were doing in your early 20s, but actually, really honoring the season of life that you're in, it's going to give you more capacity. It's going to give you more energy. And I really feel that you will sense that alignment as well. I was the careers advisor's worst nightmare. I was that child who knew herself too much. I had too much to say for myself, even though I would have been polite. But I knew from being, I mean, early, but this was when I was around 15, 16. So nearly 30 years ago. I knew that I didn't want to fit nicely into one of the four options that were provided to me. In fact, I wanted to create my own lane. I wanted to design my own box. I didn't want to feel squeezed and squashed the whole time. And at the time, that felt like a risky decision because it was often different from what other people were doing. However, I am so proud that I was very intuitive even at that time because it has meant that I've always thought differently. And my work personally, because I'm building a personal brand still, and the work of my clients only benefits from this. And I knew also that I did not want to sit in the same chair for 30 years, desperate for a bank holiday. Now, as I think about the year ahead, I always assume that it's going to be a new chapter. And some chapters at the beginning of the year or a random Tuesday in my personal brand have felt epic and a complete change, and everything is different. And yet sometimes it's just more of the same, more of refinement. And I think that when I speak to people, especially when I do talks, this need for tweaking and editing and refinement once we become parents happens way more often because we're not just dealing with our own variables, we're working with those of the family, those needs of the children. What age and stage are they at? And I understand because I've lived it that it can be very consuming with children, and it still is, absolutely. And sometimes that tired, niggly voice in my head will start to chat nonsense to me, saying things such as, like, well, maybe you just can't do this now. Maybe it's all about the kids now. And what I've come to realize, and through the hundreds of conversations I've had over the years, is that actually what we just need to do is to tweak these goals and make them more workable for us. Because we are still ambitious, we are still big dreamers, we are still different thinkers, we're innovators, we're heart led, we're intuitive, we're flexible, we're resilient, we're full of value and contribution, we're responsive, we're multitasking change makers. And even if I'm saying that, you're like, I don't know if I'm completely that. I imagine there is so much more of you inside that you are maybe not connecting with right now. And of course, sometimes we're in a season where it's like, I do not have time to have a shower in peace, let alone connect with my bigger vision. I absolutely get it. But what my work is always about is those little and often moments of reflection. And I hope in today's workshop that I ignite something in you once again. Am I going to put that pressure on you to do it by a week on Tuesday? Absolutely not. This could be a 5-year plan. But sometimes we need that person who sees something in us that maybe we know deep down inside, but have put it put it to the bottom of the pile because life has just been so busy. I want to show you and encourage you and actively suggest to you that we can do things differently. Here I am, maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6. That fringe is lovely though. I just look, I've still got all my baby teeth, so I'm going to say about 5 or 6. I was that child who knew herself very well. Even as a little girl, it's coming up to the 40th anniversary of me watching the Blue Peter pantomime and then going into my mum, who was probably ironing in the kitchen, and coming up with a plan like, I'm going to go to drama school. I'd like to do this. I'd like to work in television. I love storytelling. I had all of these things. And that person is who I am today. And those storytelling skills, they show up in many different ways. However, for most of us, we navigate sometimes many years, sometimes lots of moments where we don't necessarily trust ourselves. Or sometimes the voices outside of us are so loud and so almost intimidating that we forget that we have our intuition. We forget that we actually know what we want. So sometimes people, when they have sessions with me, they bring these juxtapositions of, I want to dream big, but I don't want to be too much. There is sometimes a move when our dreams start to come true, and maybe people don't like it. Maybe we lose relationships. Maybe we lose friendships. So many things happen. Many of my clients are heart-led. They never come to me and say, do you know what? I just want to make loads of money so I can have an island to myself, a massive boat, a gold car, and just sit on £1 billion. They're never saying that. They are talking about impact. They're talking about their family. They're talking about their legacy. They're talking about making a difference. They're talking about the next generation. And yet, sometimes they're not talking about money. And sometimes it is still seen as something that is not for us, that we do not have a seat at that table. And I really disagree. And I'm not saying that you have to kind of go in the next day into any kind of conversation and start talking about, how much you've got in the bank or anything like that. But I want to build that value muscle within you. That juxtaposition between being kind and generous and also being profitable. Certainly, if you're at that stage where, I mean, you've got kids, I was going to say young kids, but any kids actually, your capacity will have shrunk because you have other little people that need you. And so the work that you do needs to be profitable. Otherwise, you're just running an expensive hobby alongside life. And actually, your life is probably at a stage where you have a lot of outgoings and responsibility. Sometimes we can have a huge vision. We know in multicolors, like what we want, where we're going, like we can see it, especially if you're a visual learner. And yet, you might feel like an absolute beginner, that you're starting again, you're starting from scratch. You might even tell yourself you know nothing. I want you to lean on everything you've done up until this point. You get to keep it all. Your skill set, your forks in the road, your moments that you found tricky, your wins, your life lessons. You are not starting from scratch. Sometimes, again, I know exactly what I want, but I have no idea to how to get there, how to begin. And so what I have learned to do is to celebrate every stage, every single part. Like, oh my goodness, I did this. Oh, I sent the email. Oh, I made a graphic on Canva and talked about my services. It's so important to not wait for that big golden day where you finally get the accolade. We have to notice our progress. Sometimes we have a strong communicative instinct, but we have nothing to show for it. In these moments, I want you to be really clear about your surroundings, who you're listening to. Because sometimes I have been in rooms where people have said, I guess you're just a mum now. Or what do you do all day? Like you've probably like stopped doing that thing, haven't you? And yes, if it's day 3 after I've come home and I've had a C-section, I'm not firing on all cylinders. I mean, I'm firing on none. I'm just getting through, right? If you've been there. But It's really important to spend that time with your vision, with yourself, that version of you that knows that there will be something else for you, that you are important, that you are valuable, and you have more than a right to come to the table to have a slice of the pie. Sometimes we can have incredible self-belief, that inner knowing, that confidence. We've got enough evidence and data to be able to nail it as and when we need to. However, that noisy self-doubt goes on and on in our heads. I want you to become a master of your sound system in your head and really build a conversation with it. And sometimes I will welcome those negative voices in my head to come and have a conversation. What are you trying to tell me here? Why are you trying to keep me safe? Why are you trying to press pause on this situation? And then I can reassure them. Sometimes it looks and feels like I suddenly get a flashback to a conversation I had in 1996 that didn't go to plan. And I can say, actually, we're nearly 30 years on now. So I'm just going to turn down this story for a bit because actually I need to turn up the 2028 version because that's the vision where I'm heading. Finally, complete knowing in myself and yet receiving uncertainty from those around you. This is a safe space for you. This place where I put content is your place to return to whenever you need it. You know how people say sometimes you just need one person to believe in you. And there is this assumption that it's somebody else. Somebody else will give you that validation or that permission. Sometimes that person is you. It's only you. You have that belief. And once again, people love to narrate on your life. They love to tell you what you should be doing. That baby should have a hat. Oh, you should do this. Opinion is not fact, as my very great friend Beck says all the time. Opinion is not fact. And this is your time for you to really listen to yourself. And I was saying this to my partner the other day when we're talking about raising our children. We are so, we're not trying to raise a perfect child for society. We're here to support our children so they can thrive in society. I think sometimes we can constantly look out for other people's opinions or feedback or like, what have they got to say about this? I really urge you to keep listening to yourself and really paying attention to what you want and need. Now, before we get to the goal setting part, and you may already, I know when I've spoken about goals already, sometimes people have this sense of like, I don't really like the word goals. Like, does it have to be super serious? Does it have to be very binary? Like, what if I need a day off? It's all good. However you want to do this is totally on your terms because I will never give advice that we usually hear on the internet. For example, going all in, no matter what, hustle harder, smash it, you've got this, fire. Wow, sometimes we don't need to be athletes. Sometimes the fact that we've done a night awake with our small children, that takes a certain amount of athleticism. Sometimes we can't do all the things for all the people. If you need to slow down the pace of what it is that you're doing, absolutely take your time. This idea that if we're not taking risks, that we're not serious. I do not buy into this rock bottom into seven figures or putting all of our savings to work with a coach. If you have small people that you need to take care of, you want to be at a level of safety. And that's not to say that you shouldn't make a bold move, or I know that sometimes I've had moments where I'm like, I've got to stretch myself here, or this feels in my stretch zone, but I'm going to do it because I know that I can sustain it. This idea that we have to go all in regardless just doesn't feel great. So, whenever you're making decisions in your business this year, I want you to feel into what's going on in your body because your body won't lie. I still believe there are people in my life who think what I do is not real because I'm working from home or I'm available all the time. The beautiful thing is right now is that we can work remotely. However, it's so important that we set our own boundaries. We have honest conversations. One of the things that I do with my kids all the time is I never undersell what I do. I'm not like, oh, I don't know, I'm just going to speak to a few people today. I will say what I'm doing. And I have this 15-minute running habit every single day. And on those days where I really don't want to go, I will tell my children because I want them to see me not wanting to do something and then having to find the resilience, the determination, the motivation to actually make it happen. Needing to be that person who is suited and booted all the time. I mean, I'm not saying just roll out of bed and don't brush your teeth or brush your hair or turn up in a dressing gown for your client calls. But certainly when I was in the red dressing gown years, which I call those years where my kids were awake all night, and sometimes that was the only way that I could promote my business. Having a small baby asleep on my shoulder who didn't want to be put down, and me holding my phone so I could talk about my course that I had to sell. There are times now, thank goodness, I'm glad this day has arrived, where I put on a bra and I have a moment to dry my hair and I put on some makeup. That makes me feel great. Absolutely. But in those early moments when I still needed to keep moving forward in terms of my business, I had to prioritize what I could do. Getting up early, extensive morning routines, meditating, journaling, concocting, stretching, manifesting, plunging, saunaing, all of the things. Just a mere 3 hours before everybody wakes up. I don't have it so much now, but even today, actually, my 10-year-old woke up at 5 needing me and had a bit of a conversation. Of course, he went back to sleep. I was wide awake. And so, working with disturbed sleep means we have to prioritize sleep when we get it. So these really rigid goals need to have a bit more bend and flex. It's not a failure if you don't do it perfectly. Do what you can. Working 18-hour days in a mum's basement, just me and my laptop. I always make this joke that my mum's basement is in her bathroom, and it's the first basement she's ever had. She's only had one in this house. But the only way into this basement is by going through the bathroom. And the thought of that gaping hole being open for 18 hours a day, nobody can go to the toilet, or being shut in the basement because somebody needs to step to go and wash their hands or have a shower, it just would not be workable. Not that I'm thinking about this in terms of a space, but you get the point. This narrative around entrepreneurship of going all in for 18-hour days does not work for us. So when you're setting these goals, be really clear of your capabilities and your capacity where you can go right now. Giving away free value and having coffees with everybody. Your time is precious. Your skills are important and chargeable. So be very clear and boundaried with what you need, because there will always be somebody who will take something from you. And I've learned this the hard way if you are open to it. I remember talking, or rather doing a client discovery call face to face. And I don't know why I did this. Like, I just had a baby. She came round to my house, and then my dad arrived because he got an earlier train, and then a supermarket shop arrived. It was so stressful. And I really just thought that I just said yes. And I don't know why I did that. I do know why I did that, because I just wanted to be nice and friendly and it'd be lovely. But I was not in a position to do that. Nomadic lifestyles different countries, they talk for themselves. Sometimes people want to live this beach lifestyle. However, it's not for me. The laptop, the drink, the sand, the pale skin, the small children, have they eaten? Are they just eating baguette and beautiful crisps all day? Probably. That does not work for me. I'm actually a real homebody. And so, therefore, I have a different version of freedom from that. So many people I have heard or read stories about where they have built global empires, and the way that they talk about them is such a relaxed way, like, oh, I just built it whilst my baby played trains or slept under the table. Oh, and I also have 8 other children and I homeschool them all. This has not been my experience. If you need to do something over the next 8 years that some people do in a year, go for it. We are all managing and juggling different variables. Some of us have a lot of help, some of us don't. Some of us have kids that have different kinds of needs. Some of us are in relationships. Some of us live in the middle of nowhere. Some of us live in a city. Some of us work online. Some of us have conditions of our own that we need to take care of. Please do not think or ever assume that what you're doing right now is not enough. Please listen to what you need. Living on supplements, no thanks. I need some real food and sometimes like some delicious cheese on toast at lunchtime when I had tiny kids. It was like the highlight of my day. Like, oh my goodness, it's going to be so great because yeah, I wasn't doing much other stuff. Finally, forgetting that we have a home life and a life that is a pick and mix. I think sometimes people talk about entrepreneurship in this very singular way. I'm doing this, I'm building this. And they'll say things maybe like, I'm building this for my family. And yet they're not looking after their family. They might be financially, but somebody else is doing the day to day, the packed lunches, the school runs, the can you get your shoes on 52 times. Somebody else is doing that. If your pick and mix means that you are doing the majority of the childcare or you're doing the majority of what it feels like everything really, again, build things, set goals on your terms. So, with that in mind, let me just summarize. You can make money in dungarees or in Dubai. There is no such thing as the goal setting police. However, burnout and dissatisfaction will always get you. This again, I think I'm maybe 7 or 8 here. And I am in my vest, in my necklace from the late 80s. These trousers are very high waisted. But this feeling, this photo, I come back to all the time because I am so in my body here. I am not listening to all the noise. There's probably no music. I've just like found a way to enjoy myself. This is how I like to be with what I'm building. So, here are the questions for you. How do you want to feel in 2026 in this next chapter? How can you design a timeline that suits you? Some people love year-long plans, sometimes like to work on a month-by-month basis, 3 months, 6 months, 100 days, just this week, however you like to do it. But be aware of a timeline because once you start that start date and that end date, you have a container to track. So say you do something for the next 30 days, by the end of the 30 days, you can reflect back and go, oh, this is what happens. Rather than if you're like, I don't know, I'm just seeing what happens, it all becomes a little bit vague. How can you work with what you have, not what you don't? It's so easy to talk about all the reasons why not. I can't do this. I don't have the money right now. I don't have much childcare. I'm really tired. I don't know anybody in the industry. Your brain wants to do that all the time and it wants to give you more negativity because that's what keeps you safe. If your brain can convince you it's not safe, your brain's really happy because that is its measure of success. So instead, I always want you to flip it around. How can you work with what you have? Maybe it's like, well, I have social media and it's a free tool. I'm going to start posting on there. One post every single day consistently. That would be a great goal and a great way of flipping it around. I want you to think about what needs to be considered. So, for example, when my kids were young, my partner used to be away with work all the time. And at that stage, I reminded myself, I mean, I was doing it every single day, but I really knew that I was the main caretaker there. And so getting them to bed or like whatever was happening, I knew that I needed to switch my business model into a evergreen model and really work with that rather than saying things like every Monday I'm going to be doing X, Y, and Z. Because if my kids were ill or if they needed me in some way, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And so making that switch really supported me, really nurtured me actually. And it gave me that autonomy and that agency to do what was best for me. Systems, structures, and support. I know those three S's sound very serious and grown up, but they are there to support you. I want you to think about what you need in 2026. One thing I have realized over the years is that we need to spell it out. We need to communicate so clearly, whether that's with your kids, certainly recently, they're now 6 and 10. I am now expecting them to do some things more independently. So, putting their clothes out the night before. So they just get dressed in the morning. So it's like no big deal. They just put their clothes on and off we go. That idea of like, can you put your shoes on? Can you put your shoes on? Just does not work for me. Equally, I have always invested in coaches and mentors and joined business programs because there are people that I pay to be able to see things that I cannot. So instead of just thinking about yourself as a lone wolf having to do it all by yourself, think about what you need. It may also be technology as well. It might be a new system. It might be something to do with AI. I don't really understand AI in detail, so I'm not going to give you any examples there, but maybe you will know what you need. Equally, it could be more help at home. It could be a cleaner. It could be, I don't know, having a document that you have on your phone where I don't know, you save all your best recipes so you don't have to work out what you're going to eat that week. You can just order it and get it delivered and it will be great. Whatever it is for you. Finally, I want you to be open to tracking and tweaking and doing this regularly. Don't just allow time and action to run away. This is for you to say, what is working? Let me stop. Let me pause. Where are we up to? Like you might do if you were going on a long journey. You have to keep looking at that petrol tank. Okay, the petrol is running low. I need to figure out how I'm going to fill this up. Not just blindly going, I don't know, hope for the best. Let's just see what happens. Being in tune with your surroundings so you can make smart choices. The seasons of life and business. So these are my stairs in our house, going from our living room into our garden. And I love this analogy because it is so visual and I can't argue with it. It's not emotional, it's factual. This is what happens. So on the left here are my stairs just a couple of days ago. December, completely barren. I can see all of the steel. If you looked at it for the first time, you would never imagine that anything would grow there until March. We moved in to our house in March, and already there were little buds beginning to form on the stairs. And then all through the summer months, this stair situation, it grows and flourishes and Oh my goodness, there's no stopping it. There are also times where you can barely see the stairs. You have to keep chopping it every single week, otherwise, it just goes out of control. And then this picture on the right is autumn. It creates this beautiful archway underneath. It's really difficult to see or describe, rather, but this beautiful archway underneath the stairs where you see all the golds and the greens and the browns and the rusts, and it's just so gorgeous. So, what I want to encourage you to do is to fully acknowledge the season that you are in. This staircase in December is not trying to be who it is in August. And this is very practical for me, actually. I've learned this over the years that I need to pay attention to the seasons of my life and then plan my business accordingly. So in August, even though it feels really tricky and there's a lot of planning that goes into it, my August is much quieter because often I'm the person at home with the kids. And 6 weeks of school holidays, they're long, there needs to be a plan. And these kids, even though they might like to, they just can't watch telly all day. So we need to come up with a bit of a plan of doing that. However, when they go back to school in September, I can press go again because they're in school. I know that I've got about 30 hours a week to work and I can crack on and enjoy that process. Likewise, my December 2015 is so different from my December 2025. In December 2015, I had a tiny baby, 8 or 9 weeks, and we were just kind of plodding along and just like figuring out life together. We definitely weren't sleeping. It was that stage where it felt like a lot of the feel good hormones had gone, and you were just shattered and tired and just learning as you went. However, in December 2025, although I have different challenges, I have different things going on, I do have a different capacity. Really honor the time and space that you are in. And I think it is always about acknowledging and adapting wherever you are right now. Because otherwise, you're going to be having that sense that you're pushing against something. I often think about those yoga classes I go to. As much as I would love to be at the front of the class, being the best in the class, I'm simply not. So I have to make adjustments in that pose. I have to move my foot in. I have to do the easy option sometimes. I have to put my knee down. I need to step back out of the like fourth set. Acknowledging and adapting according to your energy, your capability, and your skill is so, so important. That's not to say in the future you won't be able to do all of those things, but sometimes leaning into that pressure of rushing into everything, it's not going to serve you well. Also, that sense of making sure you're running full through the full cycle of it. I often think about this as cooking. I cook 5 nights a week. I cook Monday to Friday, and my partner does all the weekend cooking. And sometimes by Thursday, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this feels relentless. That because it's that moment of like chopping the food, sorting it, cooking it, getting it on the table, hoping my kids eat it. And so I've really learned to find joy in the whole cycle. So that is like thinking about different things that I can cook, preparing it in a different way. We've recently upgraded some of our crockery, for example, and suddenly it's like such a small thing, but the cooking feels more joyful. I want you to think about those little tweaks that can serve you each and every day. They may only be little and tiny, but they could be really meaningful. So I get that we are already on slide 8 and we haven't set any goals yet, but I always like to give you that warm up so you can begin to see this goal setting experience as a holistic event. I think sometimes the way that it can be advertised in terms of setting goals, it's like, okay, take out your pen and paper and write 3 neat things. And actually, working in this way, zooming out and seeing all of the stuff that is going on is so, so important. So, our aims in terms of goal setting. I want you to make sure that they are relevant and specific. This means going into detail. This means using your senses to really recognize what this looks and feels like. So, when I go to the supermarket and say I wrote down, get nice food, I'd come back with all sorts and probably wouldn't have a meal to put together at the end of it. And this is a similar situation with goal setting. People can say things such as, like, I just want to be a bit happier. I just want to make more money. I just want to feel a little bit more like me. I really urge you to make it relevant and specific. Secondly, practical and actionable. So often these goals can be really woolly and we write them down and we go, well, I just don't really know where to start. I don't know what the first action would be. Every single time, I want you to break it down. So, say for example, it's like buy my dream home. You might already know what the interiors look like of that. However, if you want to think about buy your dream home, it's like, okay, so what's the location? What's our budget? How much is your house worth right now? What do you need to do? How much do you need to save? What's your timeline? There are so many, what's on the market? There are so many different actions you can take. Thirdly, making sure at all times it's aligned and connected. It's so easy to feel, I guess, uh, led by the pressure of society. Maybe I should do this. I want to give you full permission to listen if you need that in for example. I want you to have that sense in yourself, not that you can do what you like because you probably have some kind of responsibilities, but really listen to what lights your soul up because you may as well go for the ideal. Finally, put your goals where you can see them. Don't just write them down and then shove them in a drawer and hope for the best. What we want to do is to build a relationship with them. So you are in communication every single day. I think that there are some people, let's just say on the internet, and they pull out all the stops for the birthdays and the Christmases, like the big expensive gifts, like the acts of love. But where are they? Like the other 363 days of the year. This is how we want to be with our goals. We can't just show up on January the 1st and go, come on then, show me all the things, or the 31st of December and be like, I'm available. What's happening? What's going on? We need to build a relationship with it and tweak it and nurture it and give the goals what they need. Finally, a new way to create a vision board. I'm sharing this tool with you because I did it last year and it works so beautifully. I have been to many vision board workshops and ran many over the years and it was missing this certain thing. I was expected as a customer to set goals based on the materials that were available. So, what I might do is I go, okay, I would love a beach holiday. I cut out a picture of a beach and stick it in. And then I'd be thinking, but that's not my beach. That's not the kind of beach I'm looking for. I'm looking for an all-inclusive luxury five-star experience. Like, and it's not quite, I don't want to be quite so isolated. So, what I want you to do is instead do a digital version and seek out exactly what it is that you want. Last year, I broke my life down into so many different parts. I even did a collage for my son with him and a collage for my daughter. And with my son, it was mainly, Arsenal and Wagamama's, but we achieved both of them and really brilliantly as well. So, really getting specific on those things rather than saying, I don't know, eat out more, give yourself a little bit more detail there. And as a reminder, in case you needed it, our new and updated skill set and opportunities are ready for us. There are plenty of us. And if you haven't found those people in your circle, please start here. because I always welcome the most amazing women. There are so many groups out there, communities, events that you can be part of. Even if you feel really alone right now, please remember this. There are plenty of us. We have each other. We are clever and brilliant and have learnt a whole new skill set. When you become a parent, you are only building. The fact of like negotiating with a toddler to get them in the buggy, I mean, many people would fail at that situation. Remember, we have the internet. We don't need to wear a sandwich board in the rain. If you hate technology, if you have an aversion to being visible, if you get stuck in your head about it, learn it. You can build this muscle. And once you build that online presence, there are no limits to what you can achieve with your personal brand. Finally, we can work differently. When I think back to, say, contemporaries of my parents, they were only in a situation really where they had to actually go to work. And I think about yoga in the late 90s in my local village hall. There was a woman who used to run a class, and she would have a sign in the village notice board, and she would hope for the best, that some people were going to come and pay a fiver because she'd hired the village hall space. And sometimes she would be full and sometimes she wouldn't, because somebody might have taken a notice down. If you are a yoga teacher right now, you have options. You could absolutely hire the village hall, but also you can create an online presence. You can be a brand ambassador. You can work as a collaborator. You can have a digital library. You can make money from YouTube. You can do one-to-ones all around the world. You can run retreats. We have so many options. So let's celebrate them and get to know them. Finally, she's on to the goal setting. All right, let's look at 5 areas: planning, pricing and packaging, positioning, presenting, and your personal. In each of these areas, I want you to do these 3 things. I want you to reflect, I want you to refine, and I want you to release. So, firstly, the plan. How has your plan gone this year? If you think back to January the 1st, what did you have in mind for 2025? And has that come to fruition? Now, already you might be saying, I didn't really have a plan for this year. If that is the case, I want you to simply ask, did that work for you? If you don't need a plan, absolutely don't do it. There might be another way that you find support and you have that anchored feeling. I want you to reflect on what went really well, where you made moves, how you expanded, how you changed, the moves that you made. Secondly, thinking about the refinement that needs to be happening here. So maybe this is you not being clear on exactly what it is that you want to achieve. You write your big goals down, but there's no strategy behind it. There's no support. There's no how. It's all very kind of flowery and exciting, but you need that grounding as well. Finally, releasing into 2026. Where is your plan going now? And maybe this is your year where you go into lock-in mode because you want to make some significant changes in your life. Equally, you might want to do less. You might want to have more reflective time. You might want to, I don't know, enjoy a new baby, whatever it might be. I want you to acknowledge this season that you're in and set goals in terms of your planning accordingly. Secondly, pricing and packaging. We're going to talk about money. So feel free to look at bank statements, look at what's been going on in terms of your expenditure. Check in also with how you felt about money this year. Has it felt like it's come in easily? Have you made the kind of money that you wanted to? Has it felt like a struggle and hard work? Even though you might be tempted to back out of this conversation, know, please, from me to you, that you are safe to have it. And all of this information that you're going to gather, it's going to propel you going forward. Because most of us don't make the same mistakes twice. If we've had a really rough time of it, we do not want to repeat that. So I want you to reflect and go into as much detail. Secondly, thinking about how you could refine this. What could you do? Were you focused on money making activities, or were you not? Were you just hoping for the best and then suddenly going, oh my goodness, I've got no money this month? Were you in a bit of self-doubt about whether you could charge something or not? This is your invitation to really refine what's been going on. Thirdly, I want you to release out there what you want to make in 2026 and how you want to make it. What does that look and feel like? I want you to go into the details and really dream big. Not to that point where it feels like you're not connected with it or it doesn't feel like you. I want you to give yourself a bit of a stretch goal. And maybe when you're setting your money goals, it's like a good, great, and excellent version. So you might have a good goal, you might have a great goal, and you might have an excellent, like, wouldn't this be amazing if this happened? And then thinking about how you want to make it. Is it online courses? Do you want to build a signature program? Do you want to open a group program? Do you want to do more in-person work? What do you want to do? Be very intentional about it. Thirdly, the positioning. I call this your digital disco. So, this is all about your online presence, your website, your social media, what happens when somebody Googles you. I want you to think about what really worked for you in terms of your messaging, in terms of what you were putting out there, in terms of what people said to you, and reflect on what worked. Secondly, I want you to refine it. What would you do differently? What's not happening that absolutely could do with happening? And really refine it in a way where you're honest. So those things maybe of okay, here's one example I can give you. Sometimes people think in a busy climate where people are cancelled, they play it safe. They go more vanilla. And actually, in this climate, it is about showing your personality and refining in that way. Thirdly, the release. What do you want to do? Where do you want to take your personal brand? Where are the places and the spaces where you want to create change and impact and really support people on a higher level? Present. I want you to think about how visible you've been this year. What really worked? What were the strategies that absolutely were brilliant, that converted clients, that welcomed in opportunities and straight offers? Equally, what could have done with more refinement, more strategy, less emotion? Maybe I really had a realization this year that my visibility is the first thing to go. When I'm not feeling it, when I'm in a bit of a down like moment, or I don't know, a hard chapter of life, I don't want to put my face on the internet. And yet, if I don't communicate with my ideal clients, they can easily forget about me or just out of sight, out of mind. And so I have learned to put in some non-negotiables this year. Then, when we think about presenting in this next chapter, 2026, what do you want to release out there? Where do you want to be? What are those collaborations? Where are those bucket list moments where you go, oh, I just love to do that? Or maybe you've got an idea. Maybe you know that you want to create a podcast and it's been sitting on your vision board for the last 5 years and you now know that it's time. Finally, our last section is the personal. I want you to think about how you've been this year. What's been going on? How have you felt? How have you felt about you and your business? I want you to think about where you found courage, where you found strength, where you found success, where you felt that sense of movement. Equally, where did you need more support? I want you to be really careful here and give yourself plenty of grace because sometimes we have years of business that are deeply personal and we end the year thinking, I'm not quite where I want to be. And yet it's been through no fault of our own. We've just been needed in other places. So be really generous towards yourself in this. Then, as we go into the releasing, I want you to think about your non negotiables, maybe what you've been tolerating, what you've absolutely had enough of. Maybe you need to draw a line under something. And I want you to think about the specifics of who that person is that you want to be in the world. So sometimes people will say things like, I just want to be more confident in my business. So, what does that mean? Get really clear. How will you measure it? How will you know that it's happening? Let's go through the final thoughts like a 90s chat show. Here we go. Clarity is going to be key. Understanding who you are serving and why is going to help you so much. And the clue here is not to say, I just want to help everybody. If you set the intention to help everybody, you are going to be working all of the time. You're also not going to be able to please everybody. So you're going to be doing a lot of surface work. And if you want to do that deep work with your clients and create that long lasting change, you're going to need that clarity. Do not set goals without the support system. Sometimes I've set goals thinking that I've got like a 40-person team without reminding myself that most of the time it is me. Be really generous with yourself. And yes, if you are setting bigger goals, make sure you've got the infrastructure in place. Thirdly, seek out the connection rather than the impressive highlight reels, where the context and the reality may be different to yours. I think we can go on social media, especially around Christmas, actually, when we see people's decorations and their big houses and their big feasts and all of that. Sometimes we can have that sense that we're not doing it right or we're not enough. Seek out connection with people who you actually know the real life existence of. Keep the faith. You know it's happening and others may not be able to see it yet, but remember this story. In lockdown, near my mum's house, there was a plain patch of land. There was no building on it. It had been knocked down. And because of lockdown, so much building work was delayed. I would have this chat with my mum, like, I wonder what's going to happen to that house. And I was thinking about the buyers. They might be thinking, oh my gosh, like when is this house going to be rebuilt? But in order to get to this stage, they will have had to have done so much. They would have had to think about budgets and planning permission and knocking down and legislation, so many different things. And so, even though other people can't see it yet, keep the faith, keep focus on what you know to be true. I've covered this slightly already, but it's a really great reminder. Connect with other human beings, people who get it, people who see you, people who encourage you. Give yourself more time and wiggle room. You're going to need it. There is no prizes for feeling like burnt out and at the end and in your stretch zone all the time. I learned this very early on when I had children. If previously in my 20s, I might have been able to deliver something by first thing tomorrow morning, that same project, I would say, it's going to take me 3 days. Sometimes I'll be able to deliver it early and then the client would be impressed and excited about that, but they weren't expecting it. And that wiggle room allowed me to be creative. It allowed me to have capacity, and I ended up delivering better work. Take your development seriously. I want you to always be in motion, reading, learning. And I know that sometimes those retreats in Thailand or that 3-day event is a bit out of reach at certain times. There is podcasts, there are YouTube videos, there are so many options out there. There are clues in life that will inform your business. It can be tempting to just keep working and being online all the time. However, make sure you're out out in the world, seeing real life people having conversations too. The tough bits are normal. I did not look like the woman in the John Lewis advert, not in the slightest. My goodness me. So remember, even if people are not sharing their tough bits, they are in existence. So know that you are not alone. Know that you absolutely can do this and it will all work out in the end. Always acknowledge your circumstances, your personality, and your personal goals. The temptation from those around you might be to share all the things that they're managing to juggle and do. However, until they've walked a mile in your shoes, as the old saying goes, they cannot fully advise you on what it is you need to do. Pay attention to what you need. Remember, your variables are very important and they're unique to you. As the sun goes down and I look even shinier, this is my act to try and get hydration in my skin. And already I'm like, wow, I look shiny. If you would like to have some help and support in 2026, book a call. You can email me hello@nickyraby.com, or you can use the bottom right hand button in any screen of my website. It goes directly to me, read by me, and it's completely confidential. All details on my sessions are here, nickyraby.com/sessions. Or equally, if you go to my shop on the navigation bar on my website, you can add magic there to save 20% at checkout. nickyraby.com/shop. If you would like to have a chat and you know you need something but you don't know what you want, sending me an email is a great way to do that. And I am welcoming in new clients for 2026. I've got some exciting things that I am building, that I am prepping, and I'm really excited. So if you have questions, if you want to find out more, let's have a conversation and go from there. Otherwise, congratulations for staying until the end. Thank you so much for being here. I would love to hear your thoughts and your comments or anything that came up. So again, you can share that on email. And I am wishing you a very happy new year, successful, healthy, rested, brilliant, all of the things that you desire. And as my Granny Olive used to say, I wish you everything you wish for yourself. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm sending you lots of love. See you next time.